Romance of Sui in Tang Dynasties Chapter 68.
It opens with a story that has nothing to do with emperors or generals. It's a parable, really, about a commoner named Gugu.
Right, I saw this in the notes. This is the guy with no sons. I found that fascinating.
It's a calibration tool for the reader's moral compass before we get to the really high-stakes politics.
So this man, Gu, he's got wealth, he's got a wife, over 10 concubines. He's basically made it by the standards of the time.
But he has no heir. And in this context, that's a spiritual crisis. It implies he lacks favor from the heavens.
And he's complaining about it. He says he's always done good deeds, this hidden virtue. So why is his family line ending?
And one of his concubines, and I love this detail, she basically calls him out.
She does. She says, if you were truly virtuous, you wouldn't be hoarding all of us for yourself.
Exactly. It's a critique of greed, but it's disguised as a household issue. True virtue, she tells him, requires sacrifice. You have to give up something you want.
And Gu has this big realization. He doesn't just treat them better.
No, he releases them, he marries them off to other men, he sacrifices his own pleasure, his status symbol, for their well-being.
And the payoff.
The text says he was immediately rewarded with 3 sons. But the open reward isn't just the kids, it's proof that the mechanism works.
So the author's saying, look, if a random guy can change his fate by releasing women he doesn't need.
Imagine what an emperor could do. It's foreshadowing on a massive scale.
Okay, so keep that concept, releasing what you don't need,
Yeah.
in your back pocket. It comes back in a huge way. But first, let's get to the main stage. The war is winding down. General Luo Cheng is riding into the capital, Chang'an. And the vibe is, well, it's surprisingly domestic.
It is. After 67 chapters of sieges and ambushes, suddenly we're talking about birthday presents.
Luo Cheng rushes to the capital, not for a military briefing, but to catch the end of a birthday party for Qin Shubao's mother.
And she's 83.
Which seems significant.
It is incredibly significant. In the 7th century, after a brutal civil war, living to 83 is a statistical miracle. Her age represents survival, continuity.
She's a living symbol that life can actually go on.
Exactly. And the text describes this sort of gathering of the clans. You've got Empress Xiao, the widow of the old Sui emperor. She's there.
Right, and Lady Du, Lady Hua, all these different wives. It feels like the author is deliberately slowing the pace way down.
He's showing us the stabilization of the home front. During the war, these families were liabilities. They were hostages, refugees.
And now they're exchanging gifts, they're bowing, following protocol.
Civil society is knitting itself back together. It signals that the chaos is over. Luo Cheng stays for over a month, just visiting. That's a luxury you couldn't imagine a year ago.
It all sounds lovely. The in-laws are getting along, soldiers are home. But this is not that kind of story.
Peace makes for terrible drama.
And the cracks in this new order, they start to show up almost immediately.
They do. And in the most dangerous place possible, the imperial court.
So let's set the scene for this banquet. We're in the Weiyang Palace. It's autumn. The text says the weather is clear and crisp. It's the perfect backdrop for a victory lap.
It is. Taizong is hosting a banquet for his father, the retired emperor Gaozu, and the mood starts off incredibly high. This isn't just a dinner, it's a demonstration of unity.
Right, the retired emperor is watching performances, and there's even a Turkic Khan dancing for them.
And he makes this very specific comment. He says, "Hu and you are one family."
Okay, break that down for us. What's he really saying?
Hu refers to the northern nomadic peoples and you to the south. He's saying the disparate warring parts of the empire and all the different ethnicities are finally under one roof. It's the mission statement of the Tang dynasty.
We are one family now. And Taizong, being the savvy politician he is, just deflects the praise.
Completely. He says, "This is all your influence, father. I'm not going to be arrogant like Liu Bang."
Liu Bang, the founder of the Han Dynasty, who was notorious for treating his generals pretty badly once he'd won.
So Taizong is explicitly saying, "I know the history, and I'm going to be better. I won't let power go to my head."
He's trying to model humility. But apparently the memo didn't get to everyone at the table.
No, it did not. Because sitting right there is General Yuqi Jingde, and he is fuming.
Yuqi Jingde, he's the archetype of the bear, right? Incredible on the battlefield, fiercely loyal, but
Socially unrefined, yeah.
Yeah.
He operates on a hierarchy of violence, and he looks at the seating arrangement, and he sees a massive problem.
he sees the Rensheng king, Taizong, sitting above him. And Taizong is the emperor's cousin.
Correct. Taizong has royal blood. In peacetime, that's civil logic. Blood and rank dictate where you sit.
But Yuchi's still on war logic.
Absolutely. In war logic, the guy who killed the most enemies sits at the top. Yuchi looks at this prince and thinks, I bled for this dynasty. I saved the emperor's life. You just share a last name with the boss. Why are you higher than me?
It's a clash of two different operating systems, and Yuchi doesn't keep this to himself. The source says he explodes.
He does. He screams, what merit do you have to sit above me?
And then, and this is where it just gets crazy, he physically attacks him.
It is shocking violence for a state banquet. We're not talking about a shove. The text says he punches Taizong in the eye so hard it was swollen and nearly blinded.
Wow. Imagine the record scratch moment. The music stops. The retired emperor is there. Foreign dignitaries are watching.
And your top general just assaulted a royal prince over a chair. It's a complete disaster. It shatters the whole happy family illusion.
The retired emperor is furious. The banquet breaks up in chaos.
And this is the test for Taizong. What kind of ruler is he going to be? He can't let his general beat up his family.
But he also can't just execute his best general. That would cause a revolt in the army.
And this is where Taizong shows his brilliance. He doesn't scream. He doesn't make a scene. He calls Yuchi in the next day for a private meeting.
And he uses history as a weapon.
He does. He sits him down and says, listen, I read the Han history books, and I used to think the Han emperor was cruel for killing his generals. But now I get it.
He brings up Han Xin and Peng Yu.
Legendary generals who helped found the Han dynasty. Brilliant, like Yuchi. But after the war, they were executed.
And the imagery he uses is terrifying. He mentions they were pickled or turned into mincemeat.
He actually says mincemeat.
The text is that graphic. He tells Yuchi, they weren't turned into mincemeat because the emperor was evil.
They were destroyed because they couldn't control their own arrogance. They forced the emperor's hand.
That is such a chilling threat. So much more effective than just yelling at him.
It's him saying, I want to protect you. I want you to be rich and happy. But if you keep acting like this, you are going to force me to pickle you.
And it works.
It works. Yuchi isn't afraid of swords, but he is terrified of historical precedent. He realizes he's on the wrong side of the story. The text says he just bows his head, knocks it against the floor, and reforms his ways.
So this is the core conflict of the chapter. It's military might, represented by Yuchi, clashing with civil order, represented by the seating chart.
And Taizong forces the military to submit to the civil. It's the shift from, I took this, to, I deserve to keep this.
Okay, so we've had the reunion and the massive ego check. Now we get to the third vignette, which I think is really the emotional heart of this deep dive.
It is. We jump forward in time. The retired emperor has passed away. Taizong is fully in charge.
And we find him just walking through the palace with his wife, Empress Taizong.
They're touring the grounds, and they start noticing the staff. The palace is huge, a city within a city, and it is filled with women.
But they notice that many of these women are older.
Right. And Taizong asks a simple question. Who are these women? And the answer reveals this tragedy that's been running silently in the background for decades.
They tell him they entered the palace during the Sui dynasty.
The Sui dynasty, which fell years ago. These women were drafted into the harem by the previous emperor when they were teenagers, 12, 13 years old.
And now they're in their mid-30s. They've spent their entire youth locked inside these walls, serving a ghost regime.
The text makes a big point of contrasting the two emperors. The Sui emperor had all these endless titles for them. Lady of pure dignity, beauty, file leader.
He collected them like stamps.
He hoarded them. It was consumption. He took thousands of women just so no one else could have them. It was the ultimate act of selfishness.
And Taizong looks at this and he just does the math. He says to the Empress, I only need 3 or 4 attendants for my tea. Why are we keeping thousands of people here? It's a waste of their lives.
And this is where the hidden virtue concept from the beginning comes crashing back in.
Empress Zhangsun spots it immediately. She says, this isn't just a policy decision. This is a way to generate yin-day.
She sees the spiritual and the political payoff. It's exactly like the man, Go-O, from the intro. If they release these women, it balances the cosmic scales.
So they don't form a committee, they don't do a study, they act.
They call in the eunuch, Wei Jingyu. And the logistics are impressive. Wei Jingyu creates a registry of thousands of people overnight. The text says the palace was bubbling like a cauldron with excitement.
I can only imagine. For 20 years, you've been a prisoner of luxury. You have food and silk, but no freedom, no family, no future. Suddenly, the doors are opening.
So the next morning, they gather at Kuiwa Hall. Taizong makes the cut. If you're under 20, you stay. But if you're from the Sui era,
You're out. 3,000 women, that's the number the source gives.
It's a massive demographic shift. But what's crucial is how they're released. He doesn't just open the gate and say, good luck.
No, that would be a disaster.
Okay.
He orders the local magistrates to get involved. They are sent back to their parents specifically to find husbands.
And if their families are gone, which many were after the war, the magistrates have to help them marry locally. He's making sure they have a support network.
It's a restoration of their humanity. They're being returned to the cycle of life, marriage, family, children.
And the imagery is so powerful. The text describes them leaving with their personal treasures, bowing to the emperor. It's a moment of pure joy.
It is the ultimate open reward for the people, generated by the specific virtue of the ruler. He could have kept them. Emperors are supposed to have thousands of concubines.
But by giving them up, he gains something much more valuable. The loyalty of the population. He proves he's not a hoarder.
And there's one final detail in the text that I found just incredibly touching.
The story of Yao Yao and Shaying.
Yes, it grounds the whole event.
Yeah.
Everyone else has left, the halls are empty, but these two are still there. They're from outside the pass, so they live too far away for family to come get them.
And to make it worse, Yao Yao falls sick, she's on the verge of freedom, and her body just gives out.
In a cruel regime, she might have just been thrown out. Not our problem anymore.
But that's not what happens. Her friend, Xiaoying, refuses to leave her. And crucially, the eunuchs allow it. She stays behind in the eunuch's quarters for several months, just nursing her friend back to health.
Such a small human moment. But the fact that they were allowed to do that says everything.
It shows the mercy extended all the way down to the individual. They weren't just processing numbers, they were letting these women keep their dignity.
And the text confirms they were both helped to find matches once Yao Yao recovered. They didn't fall through the cracks.
Wei Yanzhen.
Right, Wei Yanzhen. He's a commander in the Imperial Guard, so you can picture him. A military man, tough, capable, approaching 40, a career soldier.
But he has a problem, a big one, for the time.
A huge one. He has no sons, he has a wife, but no heir. And we have to remember, in a Confucian society, this isn't just a personal bummer. It's a dereliction of duty.
Right. You need a son to perform the ancestral rites.
If you don't have one, your ancestors essentially starve in the afterlife. The stakes are incredibly high.
It's spiritual survival, so of course his friends are trying to help.
Enter eunuch Wei. He's a friend of the family, a palace insider, and he decides to play matchmaker. He finds two women, Xiao Ying and Yao Yao. Now, these aren't just any women. They're palace maids who've been released from service.
Which sounds like a great catch, right? They've been vetted, they've lived in the palace, probably have good manners, but Wei Yuanzhen says no.
Over and over again.
What's his problem? Is he just that devoted to his wife?
He is respectful of his wife, for sure, but his refusal is incredibly specific, and it touches on that theme of hierarchy we mentioned. He tells the eunuch, I cannot take them.
Why not?
His reasoning is that these women have served
They
him.
failed. With big air quotes around it.
Exactly. It implies they were potentially intimate with, or at the very least belonged to, the emperor's inner sanctum. Wei Yuanzhen calls it a matter of dignity.
So it's not that he thinks he's too good for them.
No, it's the opposite. He thinks he's not worthy of them. He's basically saying, I am a subject. I cannot touch what the emperor has used. It would be a violation of the sacred order.
Wow. Okay, so that's a level of loyalty that is hard to comprehend.
Yeah.
Even the emperor's cast-offs are too sacred for him.
Precisely. It's an extreme form of deference.
But eunuch Wei is clearly not the type to let a little thing like sacred order get in his way.
Not at all. He decides Wei Yuanzhen is being ridiculous and needs to be saved from his own stubbornness. So he pulls a heist.
A reverse kidnapping.
A reverse kidnapping,
Yeah.
This part plays out like a sitcom.
I can totally see it.
So eunuch Wei waits for the commander to leave the house to go drinking with his buddies. The moment he's gone, he packs the two women, Xiao Ying and Yao Yao, into a carriage.
And drives them straight to the house.
Straight to the house. He knocks on the door and asks to see the wife.
That is a bold move, going behind the husband's back directly to the wife.
And he lies. Straight up. He tells the wife, look, your husband sent these girls over. He knows he has no sons. He wants to secure the family line, so here they are.
And you'd think the wife would be furious, right? Who are these women? Why didn't he tell me? But that's not what happens.
No. And this is where we have to step out of our modern shoes. The text says the wife is thrilled.
Thrilled.
She invites them in, gets them settled, because for her, The lack of a son was probably a source of immense guilt and anxiety. She sees this as her husband finally solving the problem.
She's relieved, so she sets them up in the study. And then the commander comes home.
Probably a little tipsy, having had a good night.
Yeah.
He walks in, expects a quiet house, and instead finds these two women hidden behind a green gauze window in his study.
Does he explode? Does he kick them out?
He realizes he's been checkmated. He looks at the women, who the text notes are quite beautiful. He looks at his happy wife, and he knows that if he sends them away now, he creates a massive scandal.
The deed is done?
It's done.
Yeah.
So he just accepts it. He sleeps in the study.
He sleeps in the study. And the story gives us this little flash forward, right?
Yeah.
To explain why this whole scheme actually matters.
Yeah, because on its own, a story about a guy getting tricked into having two concubines isn't exactly history book material.
Right.
But it matters because of who they become. The text tells us that one of those maids, Xiao Ying, eventually gives birth to a daughter. And that daughter, she grows up to become the empress to a future emperor, Taizong.
Wait, so this random trick by a eunuch results in a future emperor?
Yes, and because of that royal connection, our reluctant husband, Wei Yanzhen, is eventually posthumously ennobled as a king, the king of Shanglo.
Talk about falling upwards.
It really sets the tone for the book. Small personal actions can reshape the destiny of the empire. But now we have to leave this little domestic comedy.
Yeah, the tone shifts dramatically here. We move to the imperial palace. It's the 10th year of the Zhenguan reign, and we're dealing with the death of Empress Zhengsun.
This is a heavy moment. Empress Zhengsun is a legendary figure in Chinese history. She's often held up as the ideal empress. Intelligent, virtuous, politically sharp. But here she falls critically ill.
And her deathbed scene, it really surprised me. I was expecting flowery goodbyes, lots of weeping, but she's basically giving the emperor a policy briefing.
She is. She knows her husband, Emperor Taizong, better than anyone. She knows his strengths, but she also knows his weaknesses. So she uses her last breaths to give him 4 very specific, very strategic instructions.
Let's break those down because some of them are pretty counterintuitive.
Okay, the first one is about personnel. There's an advisor named Fang Guanling. Very famous, very capable, but also very blunt. He and the emperor had a falling out, and Fang was basically sent home.
So she tells him.
She tells Taizong, This man served you before you were emperor. He is loyal, he's cautious, do not discard him. She's managing HR from her deathbed.
Get the good guy back in the office.
Basically. But the second point is the real shocker. She talks about her own family, the Zhangsan clan.
You'd expect her to say, please look after my brother, make sure my nephews get good jobs. You know, nepotism.
That's the default, right?
Yeah.
She advocates for the exact opposite. She says, do not give my family powerful positions.
Why?
She says, my family has already enjoyed too much honor. If you give them power, they will become arrogant, they will become corrupt, and eventually the law will have to crush them. She's saying, if you want to keep them safe, keep them out of office.
That is incredible. It's 4D chess. She knows that power is a trap.
It is. She knows that historically, the relatives of the empress almost always end up causing civil wars or getting purged. She's trying to break that cycle.
And her burial instructions.
Pure modesty. She demands a mountain burial. So don't build a giant man-made pyramid. Just dig a cave into a hill. Use brick and wood, not gold and jade. She says, do not waste the people's labor or the treasury's money on my dead body.
It just creates this image of a woman who is totally selfless, completely dedicated to the state.
And that's why her death breaks Taizong. He's inconsolable. He reinstates Fang Xuanling immediately following her wishes, but he just can't get over the grief.
Which leads to this anecdote that I found just really difficult to watch in my mind's eye, the tower.
The layered review tower, yes.
Right. So Taizong misses her so much that he builds this high tower inside the palace walls. And its only purpose is so that if he climbs to the top, he has a clear line of sight to her tomb, Zelling.
Which sounds deeply romantic, right? He wants to see her resting place.
It does. But then he invites his advisor, Wei Zheng, the guy famous for speaking truth, to power up the tower with him.
Big mistake.
Yeah. Taizong points to the horizon and asks, do you see the tomb? He's looking for validation, for someone to share his grief.
And Wei Zhang just plays dumb. He squints, he looks around, he says, my eyes are dim, I can't see it. Taizong gets frustrated, he points harder. It's right there, the Zelling tomb.
And then Wei Zheng delivers the line that just sucks all the air out of the room.
What does he say?
He says, oh, I thought your majesty was looking at Shanling, the tomb of your father, the retired emperor. If you're talking about Zelling, your wife's tomb, oh yes, I saw that immediately.
Ouch. That's cold.
It's a brutal takedown. He's basically saying you built a telescope to look at your wife, but you're not even looking at your own dad.
He's accusing the emperor of prioritizing romantic attachment over filial duty. And in that era, that is a huge moral failing. It suggests the emperor's priorities are out of whack.
And Taizong's reaction isn't anger. He doesn't throw him off the tower.
No, it's shame. He cries. He realizes Wei Zheng is right, and he orders the tower to be torn down.
That is so harsh. He has to literally demolish his monument to his wife to prove he's a good son.
It shows the immense pressure he's under. He has to be the perfect Confucian ruler, even in his grief. And frankly, that pressure starts to crack him.
Which brings us to the third act of our story. The supernatural turn. The emperor gets sick.
And this isn't just a cult.
No, the text describes it as a haunting. He starts seeing demonic spirits and ghosts at night. He's throwing bricks and tiles at invisible enemies. He can't sleep.
The text implies they're the vengeful spirits of the chaos he caused. I mean, remember, Taizong was a warrior emperor. He killed a lot of people to unify China.
Now they're coming back for him.
And the only thing that stops them is bodyguards.
Two very specific generals, Qin Shang and Yu Qigong. These guys are legendary toughs.
The emperor finds that if these two men stand in full armor outside his bedroom door, the ghosts stay away. They're like human scarecrows for demons.
Their martial aura, their ki is just that strong.
Exactly. But, they're human. They can't stand guard 24/7 forever. They start getting exhausted.
So Taizong has an idea. And this is the part I love because I see the result of this idea all the time.
Yes. Taizong thinks if their presence works, maybe their image will work. He orders the court painters to create life-size, full-color portraits of them, grimacing, holding their weapons, looking fierce.
And he pastes them on the front doors of the palace.
And it works. The spirits are fooled or intimidated by the paintings. And this is the legendary origin of the door gods.
To this day, people paste images of these two generals on their doors to ward off bad luck. It all started because one emperor had insomnia and a guilty conscience.
Such a cool connection. But in the story, the fix is temporary. The paintings work for a bit, but then the sickness gets worse.
It goes deeper. The haunting moves from the front door to the back door. He starts hearing noises from the inner quarters.
He's dying. The supernatural forces are calling in his death.
And this is where the bureaucracy comes back in. We said rules rule the world. Well, apparently they rule the underworld too.
This is the most fascinating part. Wei Zheng, the same guy who shamed him about the tower, comes to his bedside, and he says essentially, "Don't worry, boss. I know a guy."
I know a guy. In hell.
In the underworld administration, yes. Wei Zheng claims that in his dreams, he serves as an administrator in the spirit world, and he happens to be close friends with a man named Kuizhu.
And Kuizhu is?
In life, he was minor official. But in death, he's a judge in the Department of Yin. He holds the Book of Life and Death.
So Wei Zheng writes a letter of recommendation. "Dear Judge Kui, please help my friend the Emperor."
It is literally that, a letter introduction. He writes it, seals it, and then he burns it at the Emperor's bedside.
Burning it is the send button.
The spirit realm, yes.
So Taizong dies, his spirit leaves his body, and he wakes up. Where?
In a void. The text says no sun or moon, no trees or water, just a hazy, misty realm. He's alone. But then this really surreal thing happens. He hears a cry overhead.
A hawk.
A large hawk flies over and drops something at his feet. Taizong picks it up. It's the letter. The very letter Wei Zheng burned just moments ago.
That gives me chills. It's such a tangible object bridging the two worlds. He puts it in his sleeve.
He sleeves it, and almost immediately he sees a procession coming towards him. People in blue robes holding ivory tablets. It looks exactly like the imperial court on Earth.
And there's Judge Kui.
Judge Kui kneels before him. Even in death, Taizong is still the emperor. Taizong hands him the letter.
And the letter works.
Of course it works. It's all about connections. Judge Kui reads it and says, "Wei Zheng mentions you have duties left to fulfill. I can help extend your life. But first, there's some paperwork."
Paperwork in hell. It's almost comforting that red tape follows you everywhere.
He has to face a trial. He has to meet the 10 kings of the underworld and serve as a witness in a case involving the previous dynasty's emperor.
So he's on a tour. A terrifying tour of hell.
Exactly. They enter the Ghost Gate, and suddenly the bureaucratic calm is shattered. Taizong starts seeing faces he recognizes.
His family.
First his father, who looks sad, but then his brothers, Jiancheng and Yuanji.
Now, we need to pause here for context. Taizong is famous for the Shuanwu Gate incident, which is a polite way of saying he ambushed and killed his brothers.
Correct. So here in the underworld, They are not happy to see him. They rush at him, grabbing him, screaming, "Give us back our lives." The judge has to physically intervene and command demon guards to pull the brothers away.
And then they move on to the villains section, the traitors from the previous war, and this part is gruesome.
It's straight-up body horror. He sees the warlords he fought, Yuan Waji, Wang Shichong, but they aren't just in chains, they are being transformed.
The text is so specific about the skins they're wearing.
Yes. Yuan Waji is wearing a pig skin. Another is in a cow skin. Wang Shichong is in a dog skin.
What does that mean? Are they turning into animals?
It's the Buddhist concept of reincarnation mixed with karmic punishment. They were so wicked in their human lives that they have lost the privilege of being human. They're condemned to be reborn as livestock pigs, dogs to be slaughtered and eaten over and over for 1,000 lifetimes.
That is a heavy sentence. You acted like a beast, so you will become a beast.
It's the ultimate degradation, to lose your humanity. Taizong sees this and is terrified. But Judge Kui reassures him. He says, "You created the Tang dynasty. You brought order. These men brought chaos. That is the difference."
So history is written by the victors, even in hell. Emperor Taizong, he's walking through this foggy underworld, and he meets his guide, a man named Judge Kuiju. So Taizong is not walking into this blind, he's walking in with an inside man.
He's got a guy on the inside.
Which, immediately makes me question the fairness of this whole trial. But before they even get to the courtroom, Judge Kui takes Taizong on a little tour.
Yeah, they stop to watch a procession.
And this scene, it felt like a very specific moral lesson was being hammered home right from the start.
It's like his ghost of Christmas past moment. They see two figures. The first is a woman being led with incredible honor music, flags, the whole deal.
And then trailing way behind her is a man who looks absolutely miserable, being dragged by these black-faced fierce gods.
And these are famous people. The miserable guy is Sui Yangdi, the previous emperor, the tyrant that the Tang dynasty overthrew.
Okay, so he's in trouble, but the woman getting the VIP treatment is his maid.
His maid, Zhu Gear.
So why is the maid getting the red carpet while the emperor is in chains? What's the logic there?
It all comes down to a really specific cultural value: loyalty.
The text explains that when the Sui dynasty was collapsing, Zhu Gear cursed the rebels who were storming the palace.
Okay.
She even swore a vow that she wanted to be married to Emperor Yangdi in every single future life, just so she could keep serving him. She died for that loyalty.
So the underworld doesn't care that she was loyal to a tyrant.
Nope.
They just care that she was loyal, period.
Exactly. The bureaucracy rewards the virtue of loyalty itself, regardless of the object of that loyalty. So, because of her vow, she gets sent to the Jade Cloud Palace to cultivate her spirit for 12 years.
And then what?
And here's the kicker. Her reward for the next life is that she'll be reincarnated as a king, a male ruler.
She gets promoted from maid to king. Okay, so what about her old boss, the tyrant?
Well, his list of crimes is long, but the text focuses on two big ones: patricide and fratricide, killing his father and killing his brother to grab the throne.
Which, in a Confucian society, is pretty much the worst thing you can do.
It is the ultimate violation of the natural order. So his sentence is 40 years in the animal realm, specifically the livestock way.
He has to live as a farm animal.
For 40 years. But there's a twist for what happens after those 40 years are up. And honestly, this part made my jaw drop.
This is the cosmic irony part.
It really is. Remember Zugi's vow? She wanted to be his wife in every life. Well, the underworld honors contracts.
Oh, no.
So after his 40 years as an animal, the former Emperor Sui Yangdi will be reborn as a human.
But he's going to be reborn as a woman.
As a woman.
So let me just get this straight. The loyal maid becomes a king, the tyrant emperor becomes a woman, and because of the vow,
They're destined to get married.
Yeah.
The tyrant becomes the subject, the concubine, the servant becomes the ruler. It's a total inversion of their power dynamic.
that is such a heavy punishment. It's not just about pain, it's about complete humiliation. It's saying, you abused your power, so now you will have none.
And you have to remember, Taizong is standing there watching all of this. He's the current emperor.
Which brings us to the main event, the courthouse. Taizong is brought before the 10 kings of the underworld. And I love this description because Taizong, who is usually this stoic warrior king, is terrified. He actually tries to bow to them.
And they stop him. This is a crucial detail. The 10 kings rush down and say, "No, no. Your Majesty is the human king. We are the ghost kings."
See, I read that as a total humble brag. It's like, oh, don't bow to us. We're just humble administrators of eternal damnation.
It's jurisdictional respect. They acknowledge he holds the mandate of heaven in the living world.
Case number 1, the Dragon of Jing River. Now, for listeners who know Journey to the West, this is a familiar story. But just within this drama, why is a dragon suing the emperor?
It's essentially a breach of contract case. So the backstory is, this Dragon King was sentenced to be executed by heaven for messing up the rain schedule. The executioner was a man named Wei Zhang.
And Wei Zhang is one of Taizong's top ministers, a human.
Right, so the dragon appears to Taizong in a dream and begs him, please just keep your minister busy so he can't kill me. And Taizong promises. He thinks, easy, I'll just invite Wei Zhang to play chess all day.
Because if he's playing chess with the emperor, he can't be out chopping off dragon heads.
That was the plan. But Wei Zhang dozes off at the chessboard, and while he's napping, his spirit leaves his body, flies up to the clouds, and executes the dragon anyway.
In his sleep, talk about multitasking.
The dragon is in court, holding his own head, screaming, you promised! You owe me a life!
And it's a solid argument. I had a verbal contract with the Emperor of China, and he failed to deliver.
It is. So how does Taizong get out of it? Well, the bureaucracy saves him. The 10 kings pull out the Southern Dipper Book of Life and Death. They check the records.
And what's in there?
It was predestined. It was literally written in the stars that this dragon was going to die at the hands of Wei Zhang on that day.
So the defense is basically, sorry, it was fate.
Exactly. They tell the dragon, look, Taizong tried, but you can't sue someone for failing to stop destiny. Case dismissed.
Okay, that feels like a technicality, but fine, destiny wins. But the second case, this is the one where I thought, okay, he is in real trouble now.
This is the one that actually matters. The dragon is folklore. This is history.
Mm-hmm.
His dead brothers, Yansheng and Yaji, they storm into the court.
And they're not there for a friendly reunion.
Not at all. They're furious. In real history, Taizong ambushed and killed them at the Xuanwu Gate to seize power. So now their ghosts are shouting, he murdered us, he stole the throne. Justice.
Now, in a normal court, if you admit to killing your brothers, you're done. How does he defend himself?
He doesn't deny the killing. He pleads self-defense. He gives this whole speech listing all the times they tried to kill him.
Right, the poisoned wine, the assassins.
He started it, defense, basically. But then he brings up a historical precedent that I found, honestly, pretty chilling.
Oh, the Hangazu quote. Yes. Walk us through that, because it paints a very dark picture of what it means to be a ruler.
So, Taizong quotes the founder of the Han Dynasty, Han Zhou. There's a famous story where Gaozu's father was captured by an enemy general.
Right.
And the enemy shouts, surrender or I'm going to boil your father alive.
And most people would, surrender.
Han Gaozu shouts back, we are sworn brothers, so my father is also your father. If you boil our father, be sure to send me a cup of the soup.
Send me a cup of the soup. That is unbelievably cold-blooded.
It's monstrous. But Taizong uses it as a legal argument. He's saying, if the great founder of the Han could sacrifice his own father for the empire, why should I be punished for killing my traitorous brothers to save myself and the state?
He's arguing that the morality of an emperor is just different. Do the Ghost Kings buy that?
They do. But, and this is the funny part, the text implies they don't just buy the legal argument. They mostly dismiss the case because the brothers are being incredibly annoying.
They're just being too loud.
They're screaming, wailing, causing a huge scene. The 10 kings essentially say, these two are disorderly. Put them in a holding cell so we can get some peace and quiet.
So they get thrown in the ghost drunk tank for contempt of court, and Taizong walks.
Precisely. It's a mix of great man theory and just, bureaucratic annoyance.
So he survives the lawsuits. He's in the clear. But then the tone shifts. The legal trouble is over, but the administrative trouble is just beginning.
Right. The kings decide to check his file. They want to look at the Book of Heaven to see how long Taizong is actually supposed to live.
And this is where his inside man, Judge Kui, steps up. He volunteers to go get the book.
He rushes to the archives. He opens the file, and what he sees is a disaster.
What does it say?
It says Taizong is destined to die in the 13th year of his reign.
Which is right now. That's why he's there.
His time is up. He's supposed to stay dead.
Yeah.
But Judge Kui is loyal, and he picks up a writing brush.
Okay, and we have to visualize this because it's a trick with the written Chinese character.
Exactly. The number 13 is written as the character for 1 and then 3. And the character for 1 is just a single horizontal line.
A single stroke.
So Judge Kui takes his brush and very carefully he adds 2 more strokes to that one.
Turning the character for 1 into the character for 3.
Exactly. So 1, 3, 13 becomes 3, 3, 33. With 2 tiny dabs of ink, he just gave the emperor 20 extra years of life.
He cooked the books in Hell's central records office.
And the best part is, when the 10 kings finally see the file, they just read 33 years. They're confused. They ask Taizong, how long have you been on the throne? He says, 13 years.
They do the math.
And they say, oh, our mistake. You have 20 years left. You shouldn't even be here.
That is just staggering.
Right.
Celestial fraud. And nobody double-checks the paperwork.
Nobody questions the file. It suggests that even the laws of the universe are subject to tampering if you have a friend in the records department.
So Taizong gets his stamp of approval. Not dead yet. He's heading back to the land of the living. But the journey out isn't exactly a victory lap.
No. To leave the underworld, he has to pass through the city of the wrong dead. And this isn't the orderly courtroom. This is the slums of hell. It's full of hungry ghosts.
Bandits, rebels, soldiers without heads or feet.
These are the people who died in the wars he started to build his empire. And they aren't suing him. They're swarming him. They block his path, screaming, give me my life back. Pay us.
It's a shakedown. But he's the emperor. He should have money.
He has no spirit money. We're not talking about gold coins. Spirit money is the currency of the afterlife, sent by the living, burning paper offerings. Taizong has none. He's spiritually bankrupt.
He can't get past the mob. So Judge Kui steps in again.
With another wait-what solution. Kui tells him, don't worry. One of your living generals, a man named Yu Qigong, has a massive bank account down here.
Wait, Yu Qigong, the famous general, the guy is still alive. Why does he have a bank account in hell?
We'll get to the why in a second because the reveal is fantastic. But the solution is that Taizong has to write a check. He writes an IOU, borrowing from his general's spiritual account to pay off the ghosts.
I just love the image. The Emperor of China, surrounded by headless ghosts, scribbling a promissory note. Here, take this to the bank. Let me through.
And he also promises to hold a huge religious ceremony, a water and land mass, to help their souls. Cash now, prayers later. It's a deal.
So he pays the toll, he crosses a bridge, hears a thunderclap, and boom, he wakes up in his coffin.
He's back. And to his credit, he keeps his word. He summons the famous monk Taizong to lead the mass.
A little nod to Journey to the West there.
Right. But he also remembers the money. He's an honorable guy about debts. He calls General Yu Qigong to the throne room and says, hey, I spent a lot of your money in hell. Here's a treasury full of silver to pay you back.
And Yu Qigong must have been so confused.
Totally. He's like, Your Majesty, I have no idea what you're talking about. But Taizong insists. So they check the treasury records, and they find this old, dusty receipt falling from a ceiling beam.
This is the receipt from the past.
Yes. It's dated from the Sui dynasty, years before the Tang even existed. It turns out, back when Yu Qigong was just a blacksmith, before he was a famous general.
He gave some money to a poor scholar as charity.
Exactly. And that one good deed was deposited in the spiritual bank. It just sat there, accumulating interest for years. The amount he had was the exact amount Taizong needed to borrow.
That's a fascinating mechanic. It suggests every good deed you do is a deposit. You're building up this, like, karmic savings account for when you get shaken down by ghosts.
It perfectly reinforces the idea of karma. Nothing is lost. Even the loose change given by a blacksmith can save an emperor's soul decades later.
So Taizong is alive. He's paid his debts. He's got 20 bonus years thanks to Judge Q's forgery. Happy ending, right?
Wow. This is where we have to look at the
Fire.
The fire. Shortly after he returns, a fire burns down the great surplus warehouse.
And Wei Zheng, the minister who killed the dragon in his sleep, he has an interpretation for this.
He does. He tells the emperor the fire was caused by depressed yin energy. And what creates depressed yin energy? According to Wei Zheng, it's too many women locked up in the palace.
Of course.
It's standard cosmological theory for the time. But the result is that Taizong decides to be benevolent. He releases 3,000 palace women and sends them home. It looks like this great act of moral reform.
He's cleaning house. New lease on life, new moral code.
But he doesn't leave the palace empty. The text says he sends the old ones away, but then immediately selects a few new girls to replace them. And one of the new girls he selects is named Wu Minyang.
Wu Minyang, who history knows better as Wu Zixin.
The woman who will eventually usurp the Tang dynasty, declare herself emperor, and purge the Li family from power.